What is good, everyone, and welcome back to yet another video. Today I wanted to showcase with you guys a quick behind the scenes look into a recent campaign slash ad commercial that I shot for one of my dream clients. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I shot a commercial for Chanel. So before we get any further, I want to show you guys the final commercial, and then we'll go into the nitty gritty about the behind the scenes equipment that I use and sort of like the preparation for this shoot. This was a really fun sort of like run and gun situation with a two-man crew. So myself and my good friend Tommy, he was on stills and I was on video, but I kind of got to dabble in and out of photo and video as and when I wanted, because come on, like there were Chanel surfboards there. There's no way I wasn't getting or sneaking in a cheeky pic posing with a Chanel surfboard. Like, let's be real. Okay, so a little bit of a backstory as to how this entire sort of project came to life. So I'm not sure if any of you guys are familiar with my good friend Tommy. He is a photographer slash outdoor creator. Myself and Tommy have done a lot of videos together in the past, and Chanel reached out to Tommy and said, we'd love for you to be on photography for this really fun project that we want to do with the Chanel men's Allure fragrance. It's very, very coastal sort of theme because we're going to go to Cornwall. We want to shoot this whole like fun campaign video. Do you know anyone who is good with video content? And he kindly recommended myself, which I was very, very honored for. And me and Tommy went up to the Chanel headquarters or offices, I guess, in London. The meeting itself lasted around 2.5 to 3 hours, and it was in person. And I think it's really good in these situations when you've got like a client and you're actually meeting someone, you know, face to face. It's a great thing to be able to sit there together and, you know, go ahead and pitch your creative vision over to the client so they can get a much better understanding on exactly what you're going to be doing for them and exactly what they want from you. Immediately after the meeting, while everything was still fresh on my mind, I then went away and created like a 7 or 6 page, I like to call it a mini visual deck. Okay, and this is something that I make not just for myself but for the client, so they can see something visual with all of the details of, you know, the equipment that I'm going to be using on the shoot, my sort of mini mood board or my reference images, the exact deliverables and things like that. So yeah, this is a really great thing to do, especially after like a big client call and there's a lot of information. While it's fresh in your mind, create like a mini visual deck because it will help you out, especially if there's quite a long waiting period between the meeting and the shoot. You can just quickly go back and look through it a few days before, just to be familiar with, you know, what's actually going on rather than trying to like remember it all, because then you end up forgetting stuff. Something that came to light quite early on was video dimensions, and this can really sort of impact how you shoot and frame up your shots on pre-production and on shoot day. The entire video that they wanted me to deliver was a 16:9 video, so the whole video needed to be shot landscape and the photos needed to be a mixture of landscape and portrait, which was an absolute dream to hear. I love shooting stuff landscape. For some reason, I haven't got used to shooting things in portrait at the moment. Usually I'll shoot landscape and crop in, but to hear that they wanted everything shot at 16:9 was music to my ears, let me tell you. So after we landed in Cornwall on day one, we were then taken to our accommodation as well as introduced to the talent for the trip. We stayed at the Pig, which was one of the most incredible hotels I've ever stayed in. It was so cozy, the food was spectacular, and we also got a backstory slash like introduction on the entire story of the fragrance itself, ingredients that they used. It was an extremely relaxed start to the day, which was kind of unusual for me, but it gave me that time to speak with the talent and sort of develop and revise my ideas and get an understanding on, you know, who wanted to be in specific shots, who felt more comfortable than others and things like that. But yeah, just having that like time before rather than going straight into the shoot was really helpful. Myself and Tommy decided that we wanted to arrive on location 2 hours before the talent, so it gave us enough time to get any shots of the environment, like B-roll of the environment, B-roll of the product in environment. So giving ourselves like 2 hours before just to get any sort of like detail shots really helped us, especially with the time frame that we're on as well as the weather, because in Cornwall, especially around that time of the year, it's a bit unpredictable. But unfortunately we were faced with a bit of rain on both days, which I think looked really cool. It added a really nice mood to a lot of the shots, especially the photos. But this is why you give yourself enough time, especially on locations where you're on a tight time schedule. Getting to location really, really early and just getting those shots out the way really helped in that sort of entire process.
Setup is incredible. Just slowly, just more details. Without details, luxury doesn't exist.
It was a pretty hectic start to the morning, don't get me wrong. The weather was not on our side. It rained a lot for like 2 hours. My camera was getting very wet, but once the weather had cleared, we kind of got into the flow of things and it became a lot smoother. And we realized that the benefit of, working with 9 talent in total is we were able to divide people up into groups, and I could go away, shoot video with one group, he could go away, shoot video with another group, and then we could sort of like meet up after an hour or so, swap over. Because we're in a sort of run and gun situation, I like to keep my rig and camera setup pretty small and compact. So I have my Sony a7S III with a cage on, rigged with a top and side handle, a monitor and a microphone, and that's it. That's my smallest sort of rigged Sony setup that I've been able to build over the years. For me personally, I way prefer shooting on prime lenses over zoom lenses, whether that's with photo and video, to be honest with you. I just way prefer shooting with the primes, especially because we're shooting a small product. It's an aftershave, so you really want to get that separation between the product and the environment. So the 1.4 will do that so well, especially once you match that with the wide shots and sort of the action shots. You can chop and change in between close-ups, wide shots, and then you can start to really dial in on the sound of the close-ups, which is where you really immerse the viewer in the video. So I think the shoot in itself went really well. I definitely overshot, I think, but that's because I was stressing out a little bit. I was like, have we got enough footage? Have we got enough? But definitely think I overshot, and I had enough footage for a 20-second long commercial. I think the shots in itself, I was really happy with considering the time frame that we had. Regarding the post-production on this video, and more so the color, which is what I wanted to speak about, my friend Yuri, who is an incredible filmmaker, director, colorist, we actually graded this together out in Bali because I showed him the footage. I said, look, I've got this incredible footage, but I don't want to make it black and white. I think a lot of the Chanel previous commercials that I'd seen were black and white, and I was like, I want to go something a little bit different. And I really wanted to sort of emphasize the red sort of logoing on the product to contrast with like a deep blue. Ocean themed, we're by the coast, and the product is red and black. I just think the blue grade contrasted so nicely. It was a very slow paced video with elements of sort of like fast and textures, obviously with the water, some of the underwater shots, just like tied it all in really nicely together, mixed in with sound effects, and that sort of dark blue color grade I think brought the whole thing to life. So shout out to Yuri, he did an incredible job with the color on this. It is not a bad thing whatsoever to outsource people for specific projects like this if you have the time and the budget. For a client as big as Chanel, that is exactly why I wanted to give them the best of the best, and I know Yuri would do such a good job with the color grade, hence why I chose him and I asked him to help me on this project. And at the end of the day, when you outsource more people to help you with projects, it's just going to make your life a little bit less stressful than you trying to do absolutely everything at once, which is something that I've got to learn a lot of in the last year or so. And that wraps up the end of our video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this was helpful and gave you an insight as to how we shoot these sort of like run and gun commercials, especially for a client like Chanel. It was such an honor, such an amazing job, and thank you so much to the Chanel team for choosing me. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you lot very soon in the next one. Take care. Peace. You lot, I think this is the most diabolical look I've ever worn for a video, right? The top half is fine, right? You don't see anything below that, but friggin' gym shorts and a Carhartt jacket. What is this? Do I think I'm Adam Sandler or something?